Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all good? I hope so. Y'all listen, let's get into this recap review for episode 2 of Iyanla The Inside Fix. And this comes from season 2, episode 2 of Fix My Life, Fix My Celebrity Ex-Spouse. So it starts with Sheree and Bob meeting up with Iyanla. She told them that there were going to be moments in the process where they didn't like her. So she then takes Sheree to the unfinished Chateau. Miss Iyanla asked Sheree what was on her heart, and she said that she hurts for her kids because Bob wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing. Miss Iyanla also asked her, what does divorce mean? Sheree said that she didn't have a marriage from day one because when they came back from their wedding in Grand Cayman, Bob stayed out. And Miss Iyanla asked her, what is it about her as a woman that would make her stay with a man who couldn't even come home after they got married? What did she tell herself? Sheree says that she wanted it to work. She wanted him to be there because she really loved Bob. But she did not answer the question about what she told herself. You're explaining what made you stay. You're not saying what you told yourself. So when they got to the chateau, Miss Iyanla asked her what did she see when she looked at it. Sheree said that she thinks it's going to be beautiful when it's done, when it's complete, and she said she did it for her kids and her family. Miss Iyanla was like, oh, that's for your children. Sheree says, yes, they need a house. And Miss Iyanla points out that it's incomplete. She said, you have an incomplete home and an incomplete marriage. Sheree says, no, I'm divorced. And Miss Iyanla let her know that's an incompletion. Sheree says she's complete with the marriage, with the divorce. Miss Iyanla says, you can't even speak to Bob. Y'all don't get along. Sheree says that they don't get along because she doesn't like how Bob treats her kids. It's about how Bob is as a father. But not one time has Sheree explained how Bob treats the kids or what he hasn't done as a father. Sheree says that the chateau has nothing to do with Bob. It's all about her kids. Miss Iyanla says that it feels to her that Sheree thinks the chateau and Bob are isolated, that her not being able to co-parent with Bob was about Bob. But Miss Iyanla says that was about Sheree. She tells Sheree that she doesn't want to talk about what Bob did, but about Sheree's pain as a woman. She asked her what was she looking for from Bob when she walked into that relationship. She asked her if she was looking for love and did she have a real concept of what it would look like to be loved by a man. And Sheree said that she did, but it didn't happen. Like, what was the concept? What was an ideal that she had in her head of what a husband and a father was? Was that a man in her life, like a dad, a granddad, an uncle, who loved their women in such a way that made her say, that's what I want. I want that right there. I want that type of love, that type of care, protection, gentleness. I want a man that's going to provide for his family, be there 10 toes down. Like, that's what I want. Like, what was her concept? So then Miss Iyanla asked her, when did she realize that Bob was none of those things? Sheree says she thought that he would change. Again, that's not answering the question. She asked you, when did you realize that Bob was none of those things? She didn't ask you if you thought he was going to change. But anyway, so Miss Iyanla asked Sheree if she'd ever allow herself to feel the full hurt, pain, shame, embarrassment of it all. And Sheree starts crying and says, because she never had anybody to talk to. She always hid what the marriage really was and held everything inside. She said that she always had to pretend to keep a smile on her face for her kids. She said it was a show. She said we pretended. And Miss Iyanla told her to own it. Say, I pretended. She asked her what did she pretend, and Sheree said that she pretended like her and Bob were happy. She said she pretended like she was happy, that the marriage was okay. And Miss Iyanla let her know that she wasn't beating her up, but that they had to go there because until she can get there, till she can get to that truth, she won't understand the home being unfinished, the incomplete chateau that it represented her life. Then she asked her to tell me as a mother, you can build something like that but have to sue your husband for child support. She wanted to know why didn't the money Sheree used to put into building the chateau go to her kids. Sheree says that the money is going to her children because it's going into that house that is going to be for her kids. Miss Iyanla wants her to own that that house is about her, and as long as Sheree tries to convince herself that that house was for her kids, she'll be off base. In the recap of that episode, Miss Iyanla says that every parent wants their kids to have what they didn't. But unfortunately, we live in a world today of material things that takes us into a world of performance and takes us away from being present. Then it goes back to the episode, and Sheree says, yes, it's for me and my kids. Miss Iyanla says, it's for you, Sheree. but there are things that I can see, sense, feel about you that you are not willing to heal and accept. And she tells Sheree that she needs to accept that she's angry and bitter. Sheree says that she's not. Then Sheree says, if you feel like I'm angry, then okay. Then she turns right around and says that she isn't angry. Now, in a recap, Miss Iyanla says, why are the relationships so difficult? And she said it's because relationships are our mirror. They show us the things that we avoid and deny, and when we see those things in our partner, we resist accepting them. She said a relationship is a mirror, and when I don't like what I see in the mirror, I have the choice to change it. One thing she wants the audience to learn with the celebrity shows is that money is one of the things that can't fix your humanness. She asks, where in your life are you holding on to an incomplete story where you're refusing to see the other side simply because you're angry? Where are you still trying to control the outcome and your image instead of trying to face the truth? And when there are children involved, secure the children first. Then she meets up with Bob. According to Sheree, she said that Bob has been absent from the children since the divorce, which was at that time 6 years ago. So she asked Bob to give his take on the breakdown between him, Sheree, and the kids. He said Sheree wants to control everything as it relates to the kids. She wants him to run everything through her. He said that he doesn't trust Sheree because she made it out to be a vendetta against him. He said he could have paid her child support, but he didn't because he felt that she was able enough to handle the support while she was manipulating things. He said he was trying to save the family wealth. Mr. Iyanla stopped him right there and said it wasn't a family. It was a woman you got pregnant and married to soothe your conscience. And did he really think that as a woman, Sheree couldn't feel that she didn't have a place in his heart? He said that he realized it. Mr. Iyanla said that Sheree wanted to know that she was number one in your life. She said that Bob has to be able to sit in what he did to Sheree and the kids. She asked him what type of father did he want to be. He said he wanted to be a fun dad and teach lessons, but it didn't go that way. Mr. Iyanla wanted to know why not. He said that he had 1 foot in, 1 foot out, sort of like in football. He said one of his coaches used to say, you don't receive the glory when you don't use all of your talent. If you're half in, half out, you may win the game, but you won't feel the glory. So she asked Bob if he understood that for 16 years that his son was fatherless. He said yes. Then Bob reminisced on the time when he and Cairo were out working out. Cairo was about 14, and Bob said that he got real angry with him because he couldn't keep up. And he was like, I know you can work harder than that. Miss Iyanla says he was half in, half out like you. Bob says, yeah. She says, but that's what you taught him, and you're mad at him about that? And Bob accepted the fact that Cairo was acting just like him, half in, half out. She basically used Bob's analogy against him by saying, you can't expect to have a great workout with your son when you have been half in and half out. You can't expect him to be the athlete that you are if you weren't instilling those things in him. If he happened to follow your footsteps and go pro, you can't even take the glory for that because you were half in, half out. And it's crazy how you can be so similar to a person who wasn't even present in your life. It's like it's in the DNA. So we get back into the episode, and this is when the producers tell Miss Iyanla that Sheree felt a way about their session. So before, they go into the next phase of it, her and Sheree go have a sit down. So Sheree says that she was caught off guard by some of the questions. She thought her reason for coming on the show was about co-parenting. Even though she paused before saying co-parenting, I always felt like Sheree brought Bob on this show because she thought all the fussing and correcting was going to be placed on Bob. She said she didn't feel like questions about her finances being up to par had anything to do with her being a parent. And I'm listening to Sheree like, but wasn't Bob's finances a reflection of how you felt he should be as a parent? You felt like Bob's finances should reflect what he coulda, shoulda, woulda done as a parent. So Miss Iyanla pauses the episode and says, my finances don't have anything to do with me being a parent. So she asked the production people in front of her, did that make sense to you? Because it didn't make sense to me. But goes back to the episode, and Miss Iyanla tells Sheree that she has been doing that work for 30 years and she's always been a champion of women. Sheree says that's what she was told and that's what she read. And her response alone said to me that Sheree, like I said, came on that show thinking that Miss Iyanla was going to put all of the blame on Bob. Sheree didn't think that there was anything she needed to be held accountable for. So Miss Iyanla says she has an understanding of what gets us to where we are. And when she told Sheree that she was out of order, she wasn't attacking her. She was speaking on what she was looking at taking place in Sheree's life. Miss Iyanla says she has an understanding of what gets us to where we are. And when she told Sheree that she was out of order, she wasn't attacking her. She was speaking on what she was looking at taking place in Sheree's life. And what was impacting Sheree's ability to co-parent with Bob had to do with how Sheree felt about Bob. And the reason Bob isn't in a place she thinks he should be in when it comes to the kids is because of her. Sheree asked if she was the reason Bob would disappear 3 to 4 months at a time and not call. Miss Iyanla says yes. And Sheree may think that she's not angry when it comes to Bob, but she is. Sheree says, what if I am? Maybe I am angry with the way he's treated the kids. Maybe I am bitter and just called it something else. And in my opinion, that could be because when a person hears the word bitter or someone say, you bitter, ain't it? They take that as the person talking down to them in a negative way. But having bitterness, the definition means to have a complex, long-lasting emotional state characterized by intense resentment, cynicism, and hostility arising from perceived injustice, betrayal, or unmet expectations, which is exactly what Sheree had. She had intense resentment, which is a combination of anger, bitterness, and displeasure, which is triggered by a sense of being treated unfairly, insulted, and wronged, which are the ways she basically described feeling in the marriage and during the divorce. Bob saying he wasn't going to pay child support made her feel wronged, and that he was treating her unfairly when all she wanted was to love him and for him to love her and the kids. Him saying she was trying to sabotage him and that she used their divorce for a storyline made her feel insulted. When it came to the cynicism, Sheree had a deep-seated mistrust when it came to Bob. And as far as the perceived injustice, betrayal, and unmet expectations, the injustice could have been her wondering, why wouldn't he just step up as a father without her begging him? The betrayal was him turning his back on her and the kids after the divorce settlement. And the unmet expectations was him not being the father or husband she thought he was going to be. So yes, she was bitter, even if she doesn't want to admit it. And like I said, it's probably simply based on the negative connotation of the word that she didn't like. So in Miss Iyanla's recap, she says that healing doesn't begin with someone else's apology. An apology won't make it all better. It starts with you owning what you did and expressing what caused you to feel the way that you did. She says ownership will give you clarity. So then we get back to the episode, and this is when Bob and Sheree sit down together with Miss Iyanla. She asked them how was it for them to be sitting there together. Sheree says she was fine with it. Bob says he doesn't respect Sheree. He don't think he ever will, and he was having trouble moving forward with any relationship with her because he feels like it would be a feeble effort for him to be honest because he's been lying for a minute. Miss Iyanla asked him what did that mean. He said that he needed Sheree to be his cheerleader full time. He said he wanted her to speak, live, breathe Bob unmerited. Then it got to a point where they became phony with each other and around each other. He said that he really didn't like her. He tried to like her, tried to connect, but he felt like she didn't like him either. Sheree says she didn't. So Bob says that he thinks that it's best that they stay unliked. Let's not even fake the funk. He said, I respect you as the mother of my children, but I don't like you. I don't love you. And going forward, we won't have a relationship. In my opinion, Bob wanted Sheree to abandon herself. He was looking for emotional servitude. He was looking for unconditional love and praise, even if he didn't earn it or reciprocate it. Which says to me, Sheree was starting to come into her own, and he didn't like that. And she was possibly becoming bigger than him. He probably went from being called Bob Whitfield to Sheree Whitfield's husband. And that probably made him feel some type of way. Their divorce was finalized right before she started filming for RHOA. And Miss Iyanla should have tapped deeper into that. I feel like, why was that a need for Bob? Where did he not get that in his life? Who abandoned him emotionally? So I would love to know all that, right? So then Miss Iyanla asked Sheree how did that make her feel. Sheree said it didn't make her feel one way or another. In the recap, Miss Iyanla says either Sheree is lying or she's neck down on a lie, because hearing that come from the man that you say you want to build a co-parenting relationship with doesn't add up. So Miss Iyanla says, but that happens sometimes when someone tells us the truth that we are not willing to accept or acknowledge, and that can infect a relationship. So now, going back to the episode, Mr. Iyanla asked him, how has Sheree blessed his life? He said she made him relevant again in the worst possible way by using him as a storyline by saying he was a deadbeat dad, the worst parent in the world. He said that her whole plot was to use him to catapult herself. She took a reality show and made it her reality. Even when the divorce was finished, she needed more for her reality show. Even with using her kids, it was all about Sheree and everything she did so that she could look good on TV. Even with her She by Sheree line, he said they were her accessories. He was her handbag and the kids were her shoes. He said at first he despised it, but then he took it as her way to release her pain. Sheree told him, man up and do what you're supposed to do for your kids. Now listen, it may have been harsh, but Bob was being honest. He wasn't performing, trying to make it seem like everything was okay. They were all good. He said what he said to the point that there shouldn't have been any misunderstanding. So Miss Iyanla tells them that it's impossible to build a co-parenting relationship between two people who do not like each other because you are the first examples that your kids see. She told them that they won't be able to co-parent for a while because they will only be faking and teaching their kids how to lie. So Miss Iyanla asked Sheree to take her hands off of Cairo and allow Bob to have a relationship with him. Sheree said that Bob had Cairo's cell phone number. Miss Iyanla says he's going to establish a relationship with him, but he doesn't have to go through you. She tells Bob that means that you have access to your son. So she asked Sheree if she would tell Cairo that his dad was going to start building a relationship with him. Sheree says sure. Then Miss Iyanla says, well, if he comes to the door, can he come in? Sheree says he can't just come to my door. He has to call first. And Miss Iyanla was like, see how you just put that rock up? And I didn't even give any specific instructions. Now, when it comes to her telling Sheree, can you communicate this to Cairo, I feel like that's because that's who Cairo has the relationship with. So that would be the person that he would be more willing to say, I want to do this, I don't want to do this, instead of being forced or feel like he forced to do it or have to do it. So I think that was a good thing that Sheree would have been the one to, give all this information to Cairo first. So Sheree says that Bob can't call the kids and say, I'm going to be there in an hour because she may have plans. Then she gives an example of Bob calling out of the blue on a Friday, but she had plans with them on a Saturday. So she asked him to have Cairo back on Saturday. She says she doesn't have a problem with him getting the kids because she wants him to get the kids. But if she has plans, she's not going to break her plans for Bob. She asked Bob how many times had he called her that year. He said, I don't call you. I don't like talking to you. I don't like you. Then she says, how many times have you called the kids and said, come spend the weekend with me? Bob says, you answer both of their phones. Sheree tells him that has nothing to do with you being responsible for your kids. She told him that he should have stepped up and spent more time with them. And that's where Sheree is not seeing that she was a part of the disconnect, because if it's about the kids and at that time they are of age, they both have phones, why does he have to go through you? And when he calls them, why are you answering the phone? That's why he ain't calling. He don't even want to talk to you on your phone. So what makes you think he want to talk to you on the kid's phone? He doesn't want any parts of you. And that goes back to Miss Iyanla telling her that a man doesn't know how to navigate the anger and the bitterness of a woman. It's not easy for them to look past the yelling, the attitudes, the fussing and cussing, to try to talk to their kids or spend time with their kids. There have been some dudes who chose to just walk away completely from their kids because they couldn't deal with the mama. And that may not be good depending on the situation. But I would rather see a man walk away, lose the relationship with his kids, than to get to a point where he can't contain his anger and do something to the mom that will cause the kids to lose both of their parents. Maybe as time go by, and they're able to be cool with each other. Like, that's old, man, we grown now, we good. then to try to build some type of friendship or something with the children. But if you're gonna be in a situation where both of y'all going back and forth, and somebody may haul off and hit somebody or do something, no, just go on your separate ways and do what you gotta do. But then they go back to the episode. So Miss Iyanla tells her that basically all the rules she just laid out is how Sheree has been blocking, obstructing, and denying Bob's place in the kid's life as their father. And that's what the kids see. She said, y'all are blaming each other for the other person's bad behavior, and the kids are just stuck in the middle. And whenever the elephants fight, the grass suffers. And she let them know the grass, that's the kids. So y'all got to stop all this. And that was season 1, episode 2 of Iyanla The Inside Fix. If you watch it, get down in the comments and let me know what you think about this situation. And I'll talk to y'all later.